Have you ever stopped to think about why you work so much? The answer might be hiding in your own closet, in your garage, or on your credit card statement. Most people believe they need money to be happy, but what if I told you that this pursuit is making you a prisoner of your own life? Henry David Thoreau, a thinker who lived in the 19th century, discovered something revolutionary. The cheaper your pleasures are, the freer you will be. Today you're going to understand how this simple idea can completely transform the way you live, work, and find happiness. Think about your routine for a moment. You wake up early, face traffic or crowded public transportation, spend 8 or more hours at a job you might not even like that much, come home tired and repeat everything the next day. Why? To pay the bills. But which bills exactly? That new car you needed to have, the brand name clothes filling your closet, the latest phone, the apartment in an expensive neighborhood, going out every weekend to expensive restaurants. The list is endless. Each item on this list represents not just money, but pieces of your life transformed into work hours. You're trading your freedom, your time, your energy for things. And the more things you have, the more you need to work to maintain them, fix them, replace them. It's a wheel that never stops turning. Let's do some quick math. That $5 coffee every day at work seems like nothing, right? But multiply it by 20 working days in the month. That's $100. In a year, $1,440. In 10 years, $14,400 spent just on coffee you could make at home for a fraction of the price. Now add lunch out every day, the streaming apps you barely use, the expensive gym you only go to twice a month, the clothes you buy on impulse and wear once or twice. Each small purchase seems harmless by itself, but together they create invisible chains that trap you. You don't realize it, but you're not working to live. You're working to sustain a lifestyle that advertising convinced you that you need to have. And there's something even more dangerous in this trap. It's not just your money that these purchases steal, it's your future. Every dollar spent on something unnecessary is a dollar that's not being invested in your freedom. It could be saved so you have the option to change jobs if you're not happy. It could be accumulated so you can take a sabbatical year and discover what you really want from life. It could be your security to face unexpected situations without despair. But instead, it's transformed into objects that lose value every day, into forgettable experiences, into things that make no real difference in your happiness. The saddest thing is seeing people trapped in jobs they hate because they can't leave. They've built such an expensive life that they've become hostages to their paycheck at the end of the month. The boss knows this. The bank knows this. Everyone knows it, except the person themselves, who created their own prison buying things they didn't even need to impress people who don't even care. And meanwhile, life goes by. The children grow up without your presence. Dreams are stored away for a future that may never come. Health deteriorates from stress. All this to maintain a standard of living that society told you that you should have. It was exactly against this prison that a man named Henry David Thoreau rebelled more than 150 years ago. In 1845, Thoreau built a simple cabin on the shores of a lake called Walden and went to live there alone for 2 years. He wasn't a hermit running away from society, but a thinker conducting an experiment. He wanted to discover what really mattered in life, far from all the distractions and social pressures. Thoreau's cabin measured only 10 feet by 15 feet. It cost $28 to build. He planted beans, fished in the lake, walked through the forest, read, wrote, and received visits from friends. His food was basic but nutritious. He had practically nothing that most people consider essential, but he had something much more valuable: time. Time to think, to observe nature, to simply exist without hurry. During this period at Walden, Thoreau realized that most people complicated life unnecessarily. They worked too much to buy things they didn't need, creating problems that wouldn't exist if they lived more simply. He calculated that he needed to work only 6 weeks a year to cover all his basic needs. The rest of the time was completely his, while his neighbors in the city worked all year long, worried about debts and appearances. Thoreau was free. Free to explore ideas, free to contemplate nature, free to live according to his own values. Thoreau wrote that true wealth isn't in having many things, but in having few needs. If you need little to be happy, any simple job gives you enough. You have options. You have power of choice. But if you need a lot, you're at the mercy of whoever can pay you well, even if that means selling your soul in a miserable job. Thoreau wasn't preaching poverty. He was showing that there's a huge difference between being poor and living with simplicity by choice. The poor person has no options. The person who chooses simplicity has all the options in the world because they're not tied down by artificial needs. The phrase that gives this video its title perfectly sums up his philosophy. The cheaper your pleasures are, the freer you will be. If your happiness depends on expensive things, you'll be a slave to money forever. But if you learn to find pleasure in the simple and cheap things in life, you free yourself. No one can take away from you the pleasure of watching a sunset. No one can charge you for the sound of rain. No one can split into 12 installments the smell of an old book. So let's talk about these simple pleasures that cost nothing or almost nothing. When was the last time you simply walked in a park and noticed the trees, the insects, the sunlight coming through the leaves? When was the last time you sat in a square to watch people passing by and imagine their stories? Walking is one of the most underrated pleasures that exist. It doesn't need to be a trail on a distant mountain. It can be in your own neighborhood, discovering streets you've never explored, noticing details you've never paid attention to. Walking calms the mind, exercises the body, connects you with the place where you live, and it costs absolutely nothing. Thoreau walked at least 4 hours every day and said these walks were essential for his physical and mental health. If you have a public library near you, you have access to thousands of books without paying a cent. Novels that transport you to other worlds, biographies that inspire you, philosophy books that expand your mind, poetry that touches your soul. All the knowledge and all the imagination of humanity are available for free. And even if you prefer to have your own books, used bookstores sell true treasures for ridiculous prices. A used book can cost less than a coffee at a trendy coffee shop, but it'll stay with you forever. Deep conversations with friends are another treasure that costs nothing. Not those superficial conversations about work and complaints, but real conversations about dreams, fears, ideas, memories, philosophy, about the meaning of life. These conversations happen best in simple settings: a walk in the park, coffee at home, a park bench. The best conversations happen when the scenery disappears, and all that's left are two people sharing honest thoughts. Learning something new can be completely free nowadays. The internet is full of courses, tutorials, documentaries, lectures. You can learn to play an instrument, speak a new language, cook dishes from any country, fix things, create things, all for free or for symbolic amounts. The pleasure of mastering a new skill is priceless. And paradoxically, the less you pay for this learning, the more you value it because you know it was your effort and dedication that made the difference. Meditation and mindfulness practices are powerful tools that cost nothing. Just sitting in silence for 10 minutes, paying attention to your breathing, can transform your entire day. It reduces anxiety, improves focus, increases well-being. There are free apps that guide you through the first sessions, but after that you don't even need them. Volunteering offers a deep satisfaction that buying never provides. Helping other people, contributing to your community, making a difference in someone's life. It can be at animal shelters, nursing homes, daycare centers, social projects, beach and park cleanups. You donate your time and receive in return a sense of purpose and connection that no object can give. Birdwatching has become a popular hobby because it combines nature, learning, and discovery at no cost. Download a free identification app. Grab a notebook to write down your discoveries and start paying attention to the birds around you. You'll be surprised by the diversity of species even in urban environments. Writing in a journal is free therapy. Putting thoughts on paper helps process emotions, solve problems, know yourself. It doesn't need to be anything elaborate or literary. Just you talking honestly with yourself about what you're feeling, thinking, living. Do a memory exercise now. Think of 3 moments when you felt truly happy, fully satisfied, at peace. Now answer honestly. How many of those moments involve spending a lot of money? Most people discover that their most precious memories are of simple moments. A special conversation with someone dear, a day at the beach, uncontrollable laughter over something silly, the smell of grandma's food, a sincere hug. They're almost never about expensive things they bought. Yet we continue spending fortunes chasing a happiness that's not for sale. But why do we do this? Why do we spend so much money on things that don't really make us happy? The answer lies in the trap of social status. From a young age, we're taught that our worth as a person is tied to what we own. Advertisements hammer this message every day. Social media amplifies this to the extreme, transforming life into a constant competition of who has more, who travels to more exotic places, who wears more expensive clothes, who eats at more sophisticated restaurants. The problem is that this pursuit of status through consumption is a bottomless pit. There will always be someone with a better car than yours. There will always be someone with a bigger house, with more expensive clothes, with more impressive trips. You can spend everything you have trying to impress others, and it will never be enough. It's a race that has no finish line. And worse, you're running in the wrong direction. The people you're trying to impress don't really care about you. They're too busy trying to impress other people. Think about brand name clothes. A basic t-shirt can cost $20 at any store or $200 if it has a famous logo printed on it. It's the same t-shirt, the same fabric, the same function, but you pay 10 times more just for the status of having that brand. And for what? So that people on the street look and think well of you for 2 seconds? These people don't know who you are. They don't know your character, your values, your achievements. Is it worth selling hours of your life to buy the superficial approval of strangers? Cars are another classic example. An economy car takes you from point A to point B exactly like a luxury car. Both face the same traffic jams, stop at the same traffic lights, but one costs 5 times more than the other. What does this price difference buy exactly? Status, the illusion that you're more successful, more important, and you'll work years more of your life to pay for this illusion. The big truth that no one wants to admit is that we seek status because we have insecurity. We think we're not good enough the way we are, so we try to compensate with external things. But this never works because insecurity is inside, not outside. You can buy all the luxury brands in the world and still feel empty inside. The only way to really free yourself from this trap is to stop seeking external validation. Understand that you're worth what you are, not what you have. When you free yourself from the need to impress others, something magical happens. Suddenly, you don't need that expensive car anymore. You can buy a simple car that works well and save a fortune. You don't need those brand name clothes anymore. You can wear comfortable and practical clothes that cost a fraction of the price. Every time you choose not to spend to impress, you're buying back a piece of your freedom. And then you start making choices based on what really matters to you, not on what others will think. This is the first big difference between being a prisoner of consumerism and being free. Understanding the difference between real need and artificially created desire. Everyone needs housing, but do you need a huge apartment with 4 bedrooms if you live alone? Everyone needs transportation, but do you need a car if you live close to work and can walk? Everyone needs food, but do you need to eat out every day? Most of what we think we need are actually desires created by advertising and social pressure. Companies spend billions on advertising because they know exactly how to create artificial desires. They hire psychologists to understand your insecurities and then sell products promising to solve these insecurities. You feel ugly? Buy this expensive cream. You feel like a failure? Buy this luxury car. They transform vague desires into urgent needs. A powerful way to distinguish need from desire is to ask simple questions before each purchase. First, do I need this or just want it? Second, will this purchase improve my life significantly or just give me momentary satisfaction? Third, how long do I need to work to pay for this? Is it worth trading those hours of my life for this object? These simple questions can prevent countless impulse purchases. When you really need to buy something, that's when it makes sense to invest in quality. A good pair of shoes that last years is a better purchase than 5 cheap pairs that wear out quickly. Quality pans that last decades are more economical than cheap pans you need to replace every year. The difference is that these purchases aren't made for status or impulse, but because you identified a real need and chose the best long-term solution. The key is in being honest with yourself about what really improves your life versus what only feeds your ego or fills an emotional void temporarily. Smart purchases are those that solve real problems, that last, that add true value to your daily life. Learning to differentiate the two is fundamental to escaping the prison of consumerism. And when you start making only smart and necessary purchases, you discover you need much less than you imagined. This is the path to minimalism, which isn't about living without anything or in constant deprivation, but about consciously choosing what really matters and eliminating excess. Minimalism is freedom disguised as simplicity. The less you own, the less owns you. Think about your home for a moment. How many things do you have stored that you haven't used in months or years? How many clothes in the closet that you never wear? How many decorative objects gathering dust? How many devices and gadgets that seemed useful but are forgotten in drawers? Each of these items was bought with money you worked to earn. They represent hours of your life transformed into objects that now only take up space and create clutter. Minimalism proposes that you keep only what you really use, love, or need. And as you eliminate excess, something interesting happens. Your home stays organized with much less effort. You spend less time cleaning, tidying, looking for things. Your mind becomes clearer because there's less visual clutter around you. And mainly, you spend much less money because you develop immunity against unnecessary purchases. Reducing possessions also gives you flexibility and freedom. Want to move to a different city? It's much easier when you don't have a house stuffed with furniture and junk. Want to switch jobs to something that pays less but makes you happier? You can do that when your expenses are low because you don't need much. Excessive possessions are anchors that keep you in place. Simplicity is wings that let you fly. Starting to simplify doesn't need to be radical. You can start small. Choose a drawer, a closet, a room. Take everything out and separate into 3 piles: things you use regularly, things that have real sentimental value, and everything else. The rest can be sold, donated, or discarded. Each item that leaves your house is one less weight, one more space to breathe. But there's an aspect of possessions we rarely consider: the hidden cost of expensive things. When you buy something expensive, the price tag is just the beginning. A luxury car doesn't just cost the price of the car. It costs much more expensive insurance, higher registration fees, maintenance at dealerships that charge a fortune, extremely expensive original parts. In the end, that car can cost double or triple the purchase price over a few years. A big house has the same problem multiplied. You don't just pay the higher price or rent. You pay more property tax, more electricity bills, because you have more rooms to light, more water because you have more bathrooms. You pay more time cleaning all those rooms. You need more furniture to fill the spaces. Each additional square foot is a constant cost that never stops sucking your money and your energy. Expensive objects also bring constant worry. That very expensive watch makes you anxious every time you leave home. That designer bag stays stored because you're afraid to damage it. You're paying dearly for things that cause you stress instead of pleasure. Possessions should make your life easier, not complicate it. Compare this with simpler alternatives. An economy car costs less to buy, less to insure, less to maintain. If it gets hit, it's not a tragedy. A smaller apartment costs less in everything: rent, bills, cleaning, furniture. More money is left at the end of the month, and more time to live instead of taking care of empty spaces. And this brings us to a crucial point. Time is the true luxury. Money you can earn again. But time that's passed never comes back. Every hour you work is an hour of your life that you're trading for money, and then you take that money and trade it for things. At the end of the day, you're trading pieces of your life for objects. Let's do simple math. Let's say you earn $30 an hour worked. You're thinking about buying a brand name sneaker that costs $600. Divide 600 by 30. That's 20 hours of work. That means almost 3 full days of your life dedicated exclusively to paying for those sneakers. Now look at those sneakers again. Do they still seem worth 3 days of your life? Do this calculation with everything you want to buy. That new $3,000 phone, 100 hours of work, more than 2 weeks of your life. When you see the real price in terms of lifetime, many purchases suddenly seem like terrible deals. The most ironic thing is that people work so much to buy things that they barely have time to use or enjoy. You work months to pay for that new car and then spend 2 hours a day inside it, stressed in traffic. You work to pay for that big house and arrive there so tired, you just want to sleep. It's a life spent working to pay for small moments of rest that are never enough. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine you choose to live more simply. You live in a smaller, cheaper place. You have a simple car or don't have a car at all. You buy only what's necessary. With this, you need much less money per month, and needing less money, you can work fewer hours, or you can save much faster and retire years earlier, or you can choose a job that pays less but that you really enjoy doing. Suddenly, you have options. You have time. This is the true wealth that Thoreau discovered at Walden. He worked 6 weeks a year and had 46 weeks of free time. Most people today work 48 weeks a year and have only 4 weeks of vacation. Who's richer? The guy with the big house and imported car who spends 50 hours a week at the office, or the guy who lives simply and has time to do whatever he wants almost all year long? And there's a psychological trick that makes everything even more complicated. Our brain is programmed to get used to good things very quickly. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Any new pleasure, especially material ones, loses its charm after a short time. You buy that dream new car, and for the first few weeks, you're on cloud 9. But a month passes, and that car is just your car. The initial pleasure completely disappears. This happens with everything. New smartphone, new clothes, new house, new furniture. At first there's that wave of satisfaction, but it passes quickly. The problem is that to feel that pleasure again, you need to buy something else new. It's a hamster wheel that never takes you anywhere. You're always chasing that peak of satisfaction that lasts very little time. Now compare with simple pleasures. Do you get tired of watching the sunset? No. Each one is different. Each one has its own beauty. Do you get bored of walking in nature? No. Because nature is always changing with the seasons, the weather, the light. Do you get tired of good conversations with true friends? No. Because people aren't objects. Each encounter is unique. Simple and cheap pleasures have something that expensive pleasures don't have: durability. The difference is that you can reactivate this simple pleasure anytime, for free, just by choosing to pay attention again. You don't need to buy a new sunset. It's already there, waiting for you to notice. But if you want to reactivate the pleasure of having new things, you need to spend money again. One is free and sustainable. The other is expensive and addictive. But there's one type of pleasure that not only doesn't lose value, but actually increases: the pleasure of creation. And curiously, this type of pleasure flourishes better in simplicity. When you have unlimited resources, you can buy ready-made solutions for everything. But when you have limited resources, you need to create your own solutions. And that's when creativity explodes. Think about the great artists, writers, inventors in history. Many of them created their best works precisely in the periods when they had fewer resources. Not despite the limitation, but because of it. Limitation forces you to be creative. When you can't just buy what you need to invent, adapt, improvise. And that's incredibly satisfying. When you yourself create or fix something, you have a sense of accomplishment that no purchase can give. Boredom is also underestimated. We're so afraid of it that we fill every second with stimuli: social media, series, games, music, news. But it's precisely in moments of boredom that the best ideas arise. It's in boredom that you finally hear your own thoughts. It's in boredom that creativity finds space to grow. But let's return to the question of human relationships, because at the end of the day, they're what really matters. You can have everything and be miserable if you don't have good relationships. You can have little and be happy if you're surrounded by people who really care about you. And here's the good news. Genuine relationships don't cost money. Think about your important relationships. Do they improve when you spend money? Does your friendship with someone get stronger because you went to an expensive restaurant? No. It gets stronger when you have honest conversations, when you laugh together, when one supports the other in difficult moments. All this can happen on a park bench or in a simple kitchen. The setting doesn't matter. What matters is the quality of the connection between people. But consumer society tries to turn even relationships into opportunities to spend money. Want to impress someone? Take them to an expensive restaurant. Want to show you love someone? Buy an expensive gift. And so relationships become contaminated by consumption. The antidote for this is to go back to basics. Propose cheap or free activities and see who's really interested in your company versus who's only interested in what you can offer materially. Cooking together at home, playing board games, walking and talking, watching the sunset together, having a picnic in the park. These simple activities not only save money, but also reveal the true nature of your relationships. If someone only wants to be with you when you're spending money, that person isn't your real friend. But if someone is willing to spend an entire afternoon talking with you in a park, sharing a cheap snack, laughing at silly things, that person values your company. True relationships reveal themselves in simplicity, not in luxury. So invest your time in cultivating genuine relationships. Call that friend you haven't talked to in a while. Set up a simple coffee with someone dear. Organize a dinner at home with important people. Be truly present in conversations without looking at your phone. Offer help when someone needs it. These things build deep and lasting bonds, and they cost nothing but attention and intention. But let's return to the practical question. How to apply all this in real life? Simplifying life and buying intelligently doesn't mean never buying anything or living in deprivation. It means buying consciously only what's necessary and organizing your finances so they work in your favor. First step, identify your real needs. Make an honest list of what you really need to live well. Adequate housing, nutritious food, sufficient clothes, functional transportation. Be specific, but realistic. Second step, for each need, find the simplest and most efficient solution that fits your budget. Not the most expensive to impress others, nor the cheapest that will break soon. The one that offers the best cost benefit in the long term. Research well before buying. Don't buy on impulse. Third step, organize your finances clearly. Know exactly how much you earn and how much you spend. Write down all expenses for a month to understand your consumption pattern. You'll be surprised at how much money escapes in small daily purchases that seem insignificant but accumulate. Fourth step, define conscious priorities. What do you really not give up? For some people it's quality food. For others it's books or courses. For others it's having a quiet house. There's no universally right answer. There's what's important to you specifically. But be honest about it. Don't say something is a priority just because everyone says so. Discover your own priorities based on what really improves your life. Fifth step, eliminate or drastically reduce expenses that aren't real priorities. If you spend a lot on clothes but that's not a true priority of yours, cut it. If you pay for an expensive gym but rarely go, cancel it and exercise at home or outdoors. If you have 3 streaming services but only use one, cancel the other 2. Each small expense you eliminate is a little more freedom you gain. Sixth step, learn to distinguish between real opportunity and marketing trick. Promotions, flash sales, huge discounts, all this is designed to create artificial urgency and make you buy on impulse. A simple rule, if you weren't planning to buy that before seeing the promotion, don't buy it. It's not an opportunity, it's a trap. The best discount is the 100% you save by not buying. Seventh step, develop practical skills that reduce your dependence on spending money. Learning to cook saves fortunes compared to eating out and is also healthier. Learning to fix basic things around the house avoids having to call professionals for small problems. Each skill is a tool of freedom. Eighth step, Build an emergency fund before any other financial goal. Having the equivalent of 3 to 6 months of expenses saved gives you enormous security. You can face unexpected situations without despair. You can say no to a bad job because you have a safety cushion. This emergency fund is your freedom in the form of money. 9th step. After the emergency fund, invest consistently, thinking long term. It doesn't need to be a lot, but it needs to be regular. Even if it's $100 a month, over the years this grows and gives you future options. Each dollar invested is a step toward more freedom in the future. There's a guide that can help a lot in this process, an ebook that synthesizes all these principles in a practical and applicable way. It teaches you to identify real needs versus artificial desires, to make intelligent purchase choices that really add value, to organize your finances in a way that works for you, and to build a path toward financial freedom without deprivation or suffering. Buying with intelligence and purpose is radically different from buying on impulse or social pressure. It's understanding that each purchase is a choice about how you want to use your life's limited resources. It's building a solid financial life that gives you options instead of trapping you in obligations. It's possible to live well, very well, spending much less than you imagine. But there's still a deep belief that needs to be questioned: the illusion of security through money. Many people accumulate expensive goods thinking this brings security. Wrong. Actually, the opposite happens. The more expensive goods you own, the more vulnerable you become. The more you have to lose. The more you fear losing. The more anxiety these possessions bring instead of peace. True security doesn't come from accumulating objects. It comes from having useful skills that are valued in the market. It comes from having physical and mental health to face challenges. It comes from having solid relationships with people who support you. It comes from having knowledge and the ability to learn new things. It comes from having a flexible mindset that adapts to changes. All of these are forms of security that no one can steal from you. If you have valuable skills, you can earn money again if you lose everything. If you have health, you can work and recover. If you have good relationships, you have help and support when you need it. But if your only security is expensive objects, you're building on sand. A crisis, an accident, an economic change, and everything collapses. Now let's talk about an inexhaustible source of pleasure that's literally everywhere, available for free: nature. We live so long inside walls, looking at screens, that we forget we're part of nature. And our body and our mind know this. That's why we feel so good when we finally go out and connect with the natural world. Scientific studies show that just 20 minutes of contact with nature already significantly reduces cortisol levels, the stress hormone. Walking in green areas improves mood, decreases anxiety, and increases creativity. Observing natural landscapes accelerates recovery from illnesses. Our brain literally functions better when it's in contact with nature. And the most incredible thing is that you don't need to pay anything for it. Public parks exist in practically all cities. Squares, gardens, green areas along rivers or lakes, all free, waiting for you to show up. You can spend an entire afternoon sitting under a tree, reading a book, observing the world, and it costs nothing. Develop the habit of spending time outdoors every day, even if it's just 15 minutes. Make this a priority. Take off your headphones sometimes and simply listen to the natural sounds around you. Leave your phone in your pocket and really observe what's happening. Feel the air on your skin, the sun or shade, the heat or cold. Be present in your senses. Nature also offers infinite entertainment for those who know how to look. Observing insects and understanding their behaviors. Identifying different bird species by song or appearance. Learning about plants. Following the changes of the seasons. Photographing landscapes and natural details. All of these are deeply satisfying hobbies that cost little or nothing. So make nature your constant companion. Rediscover the free and inexhaustible pleasure it offers. You'll save money on entertainment, you'll improve your physical and mental health, you'll develop a deeper appreciation for life. And all this without spending a cent. But speaking of contentment versus temporary satisfaction, they're two completely different things. Temporary satisfaction is that quick pleasure you feel when you buy something new. It's intense, but passes quickly, and then you need the next dose to feel it again. Contentment is different. It's a calmer and more lasting state of peace and acceptance. Consumer society sells temporary satisfaction disguised as contentment. It makes you believe that if you buy that thing, then you'll be complete and at peace. But that's not how it works. You buy, feel the peak of satisfaction, it passes, and you're back to the same state as before. It's an emotional hamster wheel that never takes you to real contentment. True contentment doesn't come from adding things to your life. It comes from changing your perspective on what you already have. It comes from cultivating gratitude instead of greed. It comes from appreciating enough instead of always wanting more. It comes from deeply understanding that you already have enough, that you already are enough. Cultivating contentment is a daily practice. It starts with gratitude. Every day, preferably in the morning or before bed, think of 3 things you're grateful for. They can be big or small. Having health, having a place to live, having food on the table, having loved ones, having woken up another day. It seems simple, but shifting your focus from what's missing to what you have completely transforms your life experience. Another powerful practice is reducing comparisons. The main killer of contentment is comparison with other people. When you look at what others have and keep comparing yourself, you'll always feel bad because there's always someone with more. If your measuring stick is always what others have, you'll never be satisfied with what you have. Social media makes this absurdly worse because they only show the best moments of everyone's life. No one posts about boring days, problems, insecurities. And you compare your entire real life with the edited greatest hits of hundreds of people. Of course you feel inadequate. The solution is to develop awareness of when you're comparing yourself and interrupt that pattern mentally. Remind yourself that you're seeing an edited version. And mainly, remember that the only relevant comparison is between you today and you in the past. Are you better than you were a year ago? Are you growing, learning, evolving? That's what matters. So let's propose something concrete. A practical challenge that will show you in practice everything we've talked about so far. A 30-day experiment where you seek pleasure only in free or very cheap activities. For an entire month, you don't spend money on expensive entertainment, unnecessary purchases, things to impress others. You only spend on the absolute essentials: housing, basic food, necessary transportation, fixed bills. During these 30 days, you'll discover how many free pleasures exist around you that you've been ignoring. You'll walk more, observe more, read more, talk more, create more, learn more. You'll spend time in nature. You'll cook at home. You'll do simple activities with friends and family. You'll discover hobbies that cost nothing. You'll use creativity to have fun without spending. But the challenge has an equally important second part. You'll document how you feel and how much you save. Keep a notebook or digital file where every day you write a summary. How the day was, what you did, how you felt, if you missed spending money, how much you saved. At the end of 30 days, you'll have a complete record of this experience. Most people who do this challenge discover 3 things. First, they save an absurd amount of money they didn't even know they were spending. Second, they have as much fun as before, and sometimes more, because they're more present and creative. Third, they feel lighter, less anxious, less trapped in the wheel of consumption. You don't need to be radical and never spend on entertainment again after 30 days, but you'll have proven to yourself that you don't need all those things to be happy. You'll have demystified the belief that money buys happiness. You'll have developed new habits and discovered new sources of pleasure. And you'll have created a reference point. You know you can live well, spending much less. This gives you power in your future choices. Freedom isn't being able to buy anything you want. Freedom is not needing much to be happy. When your pleasures are cheap, any simple job gives you enough money. You have options. You can choose jobs that satisfy you instead of just ones that pay well. You can work fewer hours and have more time to live. You can save money faster and retire years earlier. You can change cities, careers, life, without being tied down by heavy financial obligations. True wealth isn't in how much you have, but in how much you need. Reduce your needs, and you'll become rich even with little money. Because rich isn't who has a lot, but who has enough and is satisfied. Rich is who can wake up in the morning and choose how to spend the day without being limited by financial obligations. Rich is who can say no to situations that don't serve their life. Rich is who doesn't live in constant fear of losing what they have. This phrase from Thoreau isn't just a beautiful philosophical observation. It's a practical map to freedom. It's an invitation to completely rethink your relationship with money, consumption, and happiness. It's a provocation to question all the beliefs that society implanted in you about what constitutes a good life. And it's a promise. If you have the courage to live according to this principle, you'll discover a freedom that most people never know. This freedom doesn't come from having a lot of money. It comes from needing little money. It comes from finding happiness in the simple things that have always been available, but that you learned to ignore. It comes from dropping out of the endless race for status and possessions and simply living. It comes from discovering that you already had everything you needed to be happy. You just weren't looking in the right places. You already have access to nature that heals and inspires. You already have the ability to create things with your own hands. You can already cultivate deep relationships. You can already learn infinitely. You can already walk, observe, think, feel. None of this costs money, but all of it immensely enriches life. When you really absorb this, when you live according to this truth, the world opens up. The invisible chains of consumerism fall away, and you discover that you were always free. You had just forgotten how to exercise that freedom. So start today. Don't wait for the perfect moment or ideal conditions. Start small if you need to, but start. Choose a free pleasure and dedicate time to it today. Walk without a destination for 30 minutes. Read a book you already have but never opened. Have a deep conversation with someone important. Watch the sky at dusk. Cook something simple but tasty. Meditate for 10 minutes. Write in your journal. Each of these actions is a step toward freedom. And over time, as you incorporate more and more cheap pleasures into your life and eliminate unnecessary expenses, you'll notice profound changes. More money left at the end of the month, less stress and anxiety, more free time, more life options, better relationships, more creativity, more inner peace. All of this available when you stop chasing happiness in stores and start finding it where it's always been, in the simple things in life. Thoreau's life at Walden proved this is possible. Thousands of people around the world who chose intentional simplicity prove this every day. And you can prove it to yourself too. You don't need to go live in a cabin in the forest, although you can if you want. You just need to start making different choices, one at a time, aligned with the principle that the cheaper your pleasures are, the freer you will be. If this journey toward more freedom and meaning resonated with you, there's something special waiting in the first pinned comment. It's a natural next step for those who want to live beyond the conventional. And if this content resonated with you, subscribe to the channel so we can continue this conversation. I'll be waiting for you in the next video.